All right, what is up, everybody, and welcome back to a new video. So today I want to talk about changes that I think Dead by Daylight desperately needs. I'm going to exclude Eruption because Behavior has pretty much already said that they're changing it, so there's no point for me to discuss that in this video. So the first thing I want to get into is Decisive Strike. So Decisive Strike is a perk that has a lot of controversy around it, but today I want to clear some things up from the Survivor point of view. For those that don't know, I'm a Killer main, but I do play Survivor with my good friend Marauder on his stream, and I do play Survivor quite often as well as Killer. But I want to cover why I think Decisive Strike needs a revert. So the first thing I want to talk about is, number one, Decisive Strike's time of 3-second stun should be reverted back to 5-second stun. 5-second stun was always the healthy spot for Decisive Strike because it discouraged tunneling slightly more. Most killers that would just eat the DS and then still tunnel the Survivor, but most killers with a lot of understanding of the game would just slug them out. Now with the chances of base kit unbreakable coming into the game, it does make things a little bit iffy, but I do think reverting Decisive Strike back to 5 seconds is the healthier state of the game. I think basically it's the counterplay to tunneling. It's always been the counterplay to tunneling, and I believe that Decisive Strike should be reverted back to its former self. This is kind of a hot take, but I do think Decisive Strike should be end game. If you fail to two-hook a Survivor that has Decisive Strike before end game, that is that means that you failed to apply pressure on them and they were able to apply pressure on you and do their objectives and get out. I believe end game Decisive Strike should return. The next thing I want to talk about is the introduction of 6.1.0, where we saw the Bloodlust buff and the nerf to the Survivor hit burst. So I do believe that this is responsible for the pre-drop meta as well as the overuse of Dead Hard. So allow me to explain. So for those that don't know, they actually buffed Bloodlust to 15, 25, and 35, I believe, or somewhere around there. I could be wrong on the numbers. Again, doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant. But basically, you get Bloodlust quicker versus old Bloodlust. The second thing that they did was they nerfed down the hit burst that survivors got after being hit by a killer. This used to give you significantly more distance, and they toned that down to where it doesn't give you a lot of distance anymore. Allow me to explain why I believe this is responsible for the Dead Hard meta as well as the pre-drop meta. So the first thing I wanted to explain is why is it responsible for the pre-drop meta. Due to Bloodlust being buffed, this means that you have less loops that you can take around the pallet before a killer catches you. And because of this, Survivors at most can loop a pallet 3 to 4 times. It depends on the size of the loop, obviously. Bigger loops you cannot loop 4 times, you can only loop them 3. Smaller loops you could get usually around 4, 3 or 4, depending again on the tile. But due to this has caused a lot of survivors to instead pre-drop over looping, because pre-dropping has just become the safer bet, especially on maps that have a bahuku amount of pallets such as the game. And this has created an unfun meta for Killer. The second thing I want to talk about is the overuse of Dead Hard. I believe there's 2 reasons why Dead Hard is overused. Number one is because of Decisive Strike's nerf. It's almost better to run Dead Hard now because it actually stalls. It actually gives you more time versus Decisive Strike does. I believe this is why we see a lot of Dead Hard at the moment, and I also believe the hit burst being nerfed is also why we see a lot of Dead Hard as well. The next thing I want to talk about is built-in Corrupt Intervention. So it's no secret, I do believe Corrupt Intervention should be a built-in perk, and if Behavior is unwilling to give us built-in Corrupt Intervention, which it seems like they're not because Scott Junn has already suggested this idea and they turned it down, I believe Corrupt Intervention should be reverted. I think Corrupt Intervention going away after downing a Survivor is very stupid and should be reverted. I don't believe a killer should be punished for simply running a slowdown perk that in the grand scheme of things is nowhere near as strong as Colubrine Eruption Overcharge. I believe reverting Corrupt back to its former self would eliminate the need for Colubrine Eruption Overcharge. Granted, Eruption's already receiving a nerf, so... The next thing I want to talk about is something I found on Twitter, and it was actually from Lee's Gaming. So shout out to Lee's Gaming. So I want to talk about this. I think a stats page at the end of each Dead by Daylight game would be really cool, seeing things like how long you were in chase, how long you were on gens, how many pallets you dropped, how many unhooks you got, how many chests you opened, and how many totems you broke. I actually commented on this, basically agreeing, and I said this should be the same thing for Killer. Honestly, this would be sick. Also allow killers to see something similar, how long chases lasted for, how many pallets you broke, how fast generators were on average, maybe a few other things that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I do really like this idea. Matter of fact, the tagging behavior in this, I like it that much. At Dead by Behavior, hey, y'all seeing this golden idea right here. I've always been a huge fan of expanding on the stats page and allowing more killers and survivors to see their stats, see areas that they can improve on, and things like that. The next thing I want to talk about is I believe Ruin should be reverted. So for those who don't know, with the introduction of 6.1.0, we saw the nerf to Ruin from 200% down to 100%, which I do believe was one of the biggest overreactions from behavior. For those who don't know, Ruin was only a problem with Old Undying back when you had to cleanse 5 totems in order to basically get rid of Ruin. Ruin was also kind of a problem briefly when totem spots were very, very hard. But I've noticed totem spots are not as difficult as they used to be. Most of us have learned totem spots now, and I don't think Ruin should continue to be as nerfed as it is. The next thing I want to talk about is a nerf to Dying Light and Thana stacking, as well as Gift of Pain. I believe all 3 of these perks cause a very unfun meta, as well as the I just think it causes very unfun meta. I think basically allowing, mangled perks and perks that affect gen speeds to stack creates a very unfun meta that nobody really enjoys. And I think this is responsible for why we're seeing a lot of survivors giving up in matches against certain builds, such as Dying Light, Thana, and Gift of Pain. I know that there's one other perk that nobody's talking about, and it's a Hex perk. I do believe that one should be also toned down to no longer stack with these perks as well. I do not disagree with that, but we'll cover that in another video. The next thing I want to talk about is a base kit Save the Best for Last needs a revert. So for those that don't know, in the introduction of 6.1.0, behavior introduced a base kit Save the Best for Last. And you get 2 stacks by default, basically. They did not change the perk Save the Best for Last, meaning you can actually get 10 stacks. So you can actually have 10 stacks of Save the Best for Last with the 2 base kit that are already in the game. I do believe either Save the Best for Last needs a tone down, or the base kit Save the Best for Last needs a complete revert. And the last thing I want to talk about before I end this video is I want to talk about the barbecue and chili blood point return. One of the biggest reasons why I think barbecue and chili needs to return back to its former self is because back when barbecue and chili was in the game, you didn't have as much tunneling as you do now, because more killers were incentivized to go for different survivors over chasing the same single survivor over and over and over again. And because of this, I feel like the games actually felt better for both sides, and everybody enjoyed the game more when nobody was really getting tunneled as hard or camped as hard or things like that. I understand this won't eliminate tunneling or camping completely, but I do think this will incentivize more killers to go for more chases. And I do believe chase meta is the most healthiest meta in the game. Please revert Ruin, and please revert barbecue and chili. The last thing I want to talk about is Hex Penamento. So Hex Penamento is on the same category as Dying Light, Thana, and Gift of Pain. I do believe Penamento should no longer stack with any gen slowdown or any mangled slowdown. I do believe this creates a very unfun meta where survivors basically have to heal and do gens forever. And honestly, it's not fun to play against Survivor and have pretty much a 30-minute match. It has a similar problem to Eruption, Colubrine, and Overcharge, where matches just take forever to end. And I believe this is the next big complaint that survivors are going to have once Eruption and Colubrine and Overcharge are toned down. I believe this is where we're going to have the most complaints coming from, is Dying Light, Thana, Penamento, Gift of Pain. These kind of builds need a drastic tone down, because I do believe they're going to be the future of the meta when, Eruption is nerfed down. And lastly, I just want to say thank you guys who have supported me. Thank you guys so much. We are on the road to 200 subs. If you guys haven't noticed, please hit that subscribe button if you're new. Leave a comment down below what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Do you guys have anything you guys want to add? With that being said, thank you guys as always. Follow my socials down below. Check me out on Rumble if you guys haven't. I can actually monetize my content over there. And also follow my Twitter. Great way to get, any notifications, whether I'm going to be delaying a video, whether I'm taking a break or anything like that, whether a video is delayed or anything like that. Also, check out my Alien Isolation Part 3 series coming tomorrow, which will be Friday for, when you guys see this video, it'll be Thursday. So this will be Friday when you guys see the finale of Alien Isolation Part 3. Also, check out the Homie Marauder. We just stream him from time to time live over on Twitch. And yeah, these are my thoughts. I think all these changes would make the game better. And I think in the long run, everybody would enjoy Dead by Daylight more if we brought some of these things back, changed some of these things, and overall encouraged a more healthy gameplay from both sides of the game. I did not address Dead Hard in this video because Dead Hard, in my opinion, is not even really worth talking about because I'm almost certain that's probably one of the perks that's also getting changed, similar to Eruption. So I just didn't cover it this video. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Anyway, that being said, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below. Love y'all, man.